Hey there, Cinemaster fans! Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. The two movies today start with an injured man named Jack, sitting in the garage, surrounded by gang members who came to kill him because he failed in his job. He was supposed to finish off a man named Payback, but instead, he killed that man's family and let him escape. Out of nowhere, a huge man wearing a t-shirt with a big cross appears. It turns out to be Payback himself. He starts shooting at the gang to move Jack. A few of them are killed immediately, but one of the gang members has a special ability and bullets don't affect him. This forces Payback to fight hand-to-hand. In this intense fight, Payback shows his strength and skill, breaking the man's leg and arm, and finishes off the last one by crushing his skull with his hand. Jack thinks Payback saved him because he's a good guy, but he's completely wrong. Payback stopped the gang only so he could take revenge himself. Jack had just killed Payback's daughter, and Payback wanted to be the one to end Jack's life. He believes that getting rid of evil people is right, even if it means killing. So Payback reloads his gun and shoots Jack in the head immediately. But before he leaves, the police arrive and arrest him. In this world, many people have powers like controlling electricity, super strength, or the ability to deliver deadly blows. To deal with this threat, the government built the most secure, high-tech prison. Payback is now being sent to a maximum security prison after being convicted of killing about 40 to 50 people. Soon, a group of new inmates arrives, including Payback, who is already famous among the other prisoners. A security officer named Captain Brady tells them that their powers are controlled by a device called the Power Nullifier, which is attached to each prisoner's leg. Because of this device, no one inside the prison can use their abilities. Among the new inmates, one stands out, not because he's dangerous, but because he's different. His name is Diego Diaz, and his superpower allows him to feel the emotions of those around him. Unlike all the other violent criminals, Diego is very calm. When it's Payback's turn, Morales realizes he's one of the strongest inmates in the whole prison. Another guard mocks Payback, saying he doesn't look as scary in real life as he does on TV. Suddenly, Morales punches Payback in the stomach, making him drop to his knees. She has super strength and makes it clear she won't tolerate any disrespect. The inmates take their personal belongings and are sent to their cells. Later, Payback goes to the prison yard and meets another inmate named Jim. Jim is the brother of someone Payback killed before, and he's been waiting to get revenge. Without hesitation, the two get into a brutal fight. Payback lands a few hard punches straight to Jim's face, making him bleed. Devlin watches the scene on the surveillance monitors. Morales and the other guards stand by and make no effort to stop the fight. Meanwhile, Diego talks with another inmate named Gordon, upset that the guards aren't intervening. He asks if they're really going to let Jim and Payback fight like that. Gordon calmly explains that the guards won't step in unless one of them is about to die. Jim elbows Payback in the nose, making him bleed. Payback then draws a cross on his face with his blood, a powerful symbol like the one on his t-shirt in the opening scene, showing he's very religious. With explosive force, Payback turns the fight in his favor and takes control of the situation. Just as he's about to finish off Jim, the guards finally intervene and stun both inmates with electric batons. Morales orders Payback to stop, but he refuses, so she beats him until he gives up. After the fight, Gordon starts acting friendly with Diego, as if they've known each other for a long time. He gives Diego a quick tour of the prison and explains a few basic rules. The first rule is simple: never cause chaos, especially in common areas. The second rule is to avoid getting involved in other inmates' problems. If Diego gets caught doing something illegal, his sentence will be increased. Lastly, never owe anyone anything, not the guards, not even the other inmates. Gordon seems like a good prisoner, hoping to get parole because of his good behavior, and he gives this advice to Diego so he can stay safe and out of trouble. Curious, Diego asks Gordon if the infamous inmate known as the Loop is really imprisoned here. It's said that the Loop has an extremely powerful mind control ability, and if the power nullifier wasn't attached to his leg, he'd be deadly. At that moment, a huge mutant inmate passes by them, looking like a bodybuilder the size of a monster. His name is Darius, and he's the Loop's right-hand man. Even Gordon becomes calm and cautious when Darius is near. At the same time, the Loop is taken to a dark room for a parole hearing. His face is covered with an iron cage to prevent him from using his expressions to control anyone's mind. The room is pitch black, and the parole board is hidden in the darkness. This is his fourth attempt at parole, but once again, he's denied. They tell him he must undergo another psychological evaluation. The board says his anger issues make him a danger to the outside world, and he's frustrated and angry. The Loop insults and mocks the people behind the darkness, realizing he might never get out again. After a while, Devlin appears and starts talking to the Loop about his upcoming retirement. saying that working in this prison never made him rich. That's why he makes a secret offer to the Loop. "Now you will give me your fortune," and asks the Loop to transfer his hidden wealth to Devlin's account. It's said that the Loop has billions he stole using his mind control powers. In exchange for the money, Devlin promises to help him escape the prison, but the Loop refuses the offer. Devlin mocks him, saying he's just another powerless inmate now and must accept the deal. The Loop doesn't give a clear answer, but his face shows he really has no other choice but to agree. Meanwhile, in the prison clinic, Dr. Isabel is treating Payback and 2 other inmates. Payback only has minor injuries, but one of the other inmates has a much worse injury because his head is completely cut off. Morales comes in for her routine check, and right after that, Diego arrives too. While Diego is quietly throwing away the trash, Morales threatens him that she'll hurt him for no reason. Dr. Isabel sees this, and it's clear she doesn't like it. She apologizes to Diego and tells him not everyone in prison is harsh. There are still people who care. Then she starts telling Diego about some patients she's treating in the clinic. A few minutes later, Morales returns to the clinic and tells Dr. Isabel that the Loop is ready for his psychological evaluation. While she's focused on the Loop, Payback regains consciousness and sneaks up behind her without her noticing. He quietly grabs her by the neck, lifts her into the air, and chokes her until she passes out. After that, Payback turns his attention to the Loop, planning to kill him while the doctor is unconscious. But the Loop stays calm, doesn't get nervous, and even smiles at Payback, showing he's completely unaffected by the threat. Just as Payback is about to attack, Diego runs up behind him and manages to hold Payback long enough for the guard to arrive and stop him. At that moment, Diego saves the Loop's life, but he breaks rule number 2. Never get involved in trouble with anyone. After this incident, Diego becomes famous among the other inmates, and they respect him because many of them already hated Payback. Now Diego stands in front of them, and as a token of appreciation, the inmates give Diego some of the sweets from their meals. Jordan is there too, and tells Diego he did a great job, advising him to use this new respect to his advantage because it will help him survive in prison. A little later, Darius approaches Diego at the table and tells him that his boss, the Loop, wants to talk to him. Diego follows Darius to the Loop's cell. When Diego arrives, the Loop thanks him for saving his life, and then offers Diego a job to take Darius's place in the kitchen and provide him with all the supplies he needs. In return, the Loop promises to help Diego escape from prison as soon as his plan is complete. Diego wants to get out, but he's not sure if working with the Loop is the right decision or not. At the same time, in the warden's office, Devlin's assistant, Lasha, warns him that making a deal with the Loop is very dangerous and says the Loop can never be trusted. Devlin responds that as the warden of a supervillain prison, he has to be worse than them. He tells Lasha that if she wants to be the next warden, she needs to have courage and be just as tough. To prove his point, Devlin shows her 2 letters. One is a recommendation for her to become the next warden after he retires, and the other detail all her violations, which could completely disqualify her from the position. Devlin says her actions will determine which letter he sends to his superiors. The next day, after checking on Payback again, Isabel decides to discharge him from the clinic. This time, Payback is handcuffed to the bed so he can't harm the doctor, and a guard is present to watch him. Meanwhile, Jordan has a parole hearing and tries his best to convince the interviewer that he's changed. He explains that he's never caused any trouble with other inmates and hasn't broken any rules. But the interviewer seems to have been waiting for this moment. Because of Jordan's bad behavior, his parole is denied and he's dragged out of the room. Later in the cafeteria, Diego approaches him and asks if he's okay. Jordan replies that he's fine, even though it's clear he's lost all hope. Seconds later, Darius passes by their table and puts a broken fork in front of Jordan. Jordan quickly uses the fork to open his power-canceling device. Jordan thanks Diego for being his friend, and then suddenly begins provoking the guard in the cafeteria. The guard notices that Jordan's power-canceling device is missing, and immediately calls for backup. Jordan jumps onto a table, grabs a live electric wire from the ceiling, charges himself with electricity, smiles as the power surges through him because he's missed his powers for so long, and then strikes the guard with a bolt of electricity, killing him instantly. The cafeteria erupts into chaos, but it's already too late. Jordan then overloads the prison's electricity, shutting down the entire facility. This is the signal for Jim and his gang to start the riot, exactly as the Loop planned. Just as Payback and Jim are about to fight again, both are electrocuted by the guards. Meanwhile, the Loop remains calm and relaxed in his cell. Jordan takes advantage of the chaos, runs to the infirmary and hopes to hide there and escape from prison in the end. On the other side, Lasha shows Devlin footage of what happened in the cafeteria and reveals how Jordan got his powers back. After seeing this, Devlin orders a manhunt for Jordan throughout the entire detention center. At the same time Jordan is in the infirmary, quietly looking out the window, when suddenly he's hit very hard on the back of his head. Morales reports the situation to Devlin, who orders her to kill Jordan on the spot. At first, Morales hesitates, but with no other options, she follows orders. Jordan, having lost hope, lets her kill him easily. Morales strikes Jordan mercilessly, her powerful blows crushing his skull. Her expression shows she doesn't want to do this, but she has no other choice. The news is covering the incident, and Devlin fabricates a story that Jordan tried to escape, fell, and died. The news anchor appears to support Devlin's version, but another anchor is suspicious and knows that Devlin always makes up lies whenever someone dies in prison. We go back to the prison, and Diego is on a call with his wife when Morales interrupts and tells him that Devlin wants to speak with him in the solitary confinement section next to the Loop's cell. There, Devlin shows Diego the high-security solitary cell to scare him. The atmosphere inside is like a thunderstorm, and it could kill someone in a second. After that, Devlin asks Diego about what the Loop asked him to do. Diego admits that the Loop just asked him to take a shift in the kitchen and mentioned the Rosgod tunnel. After hearing this, Devlin lets Diego go but warns him to report everything the Loop tells him, or there will be serious consequences. Then, Devlin talks to the Loop about the recent incident, but the Loop denies any involvement. Devlin gets angry, reminds the Loop of their deal, and tells him that if he doesn't fulfill it before Devlin retires, he'll be thrown into high-security solitary. The Loop knows he can't escape prison alone, so he promises to get the money on Devlin's retirement day, but asks for the prison's Wi-Fi password in return. Devlin laughs at this request and leaves. Meanwhile, Felicia, Brody, and another officer are in the basement inspecting the electrical system. Since Diego mentioned the Rosgod tunnel, Devlin ordered them to check all the prison's tunnels. They discuss what happened to Jordan, and Felicia is upset that a prisoner was killed. Brody feels the same, but, as a captain, believes that protecting the prison's image is more important, so Jordan's death was justified. An officer says he can fix the generator but needs help. Felicia warns that they fix it quickly, especially before Devlin retires, because things could go very wrong that day. Later, the basement and electrical system reconstruction begins. When it's done, Felicia informs Devlin and asks about her promotion. Devlin says the committee is still deciding but assures her she has a good chance of becoming the next warden. As Devlin's retirement approaches, everyone in the prison is tense, thinking something big might happen. Diego talks to the Loop and asks what's really going on. He wants to escape but hasn't seen any signs yet. The Loop tells him to relax and assures him he'll get him out, but he needs to receive someone on Friday, Devlin's last day at work. The next morning, Felicia receives an email about Brody being nominated as the next warden. She gets very angry, storms into Devlin's office, confronts him, and points out that they promised her a dual nomination, but Brody is getting the warden position. To make matters worse, Devlin recommends Felicia as Brody's assistant and says she's basically one of the prison's values. After this announcement, Devlin goes straight to the Loop's cell to get the money from him. He gives the Loop a tablet and asks him to transfer the money now. But instead of starting a bank transfer, the Loop hacks the tablet and disables all the inmates' power suppression devices because he previously obtained the Wi-Fi password. We learn that Devlin used the same password for all the prison security systems, making it very easy for the Loop to disable them. Disabling the suppression devices causes a huge riot in the prison. The now free inmates use their powers and create chaos everywhere. Some breathe fire, the officers are forced to retreat and can't contain the riot, except for Morales, whose special ability allows her to fight the supervillains and hold her ground in the chaos. At the same time, Diego, who is on shift in the clinic, starts to feel overwhelmed by a flood of emotions in his mind as his powers return. Fortunately, Dr. Isabel is there to help him calm down and regain control of his thoughts. Felicia, realizing the gravity of the situation, warns Devlin about the riot, but before he can act, he's locked inside the Loop's cell, another part of the Loop's plan. The riot continues, and the inmates overpower the guards, killing anyone who stands in their way and even fighting among themselves. Amid the chaos, Payback and Jim see an opportunity to settle old scores. With his immense strength, Jim takes control of the fight, but just as Jim is about to defeat Payback, another inmate distracts Jim, allowing Payback to escape. Elsewhere in the complex, Brody contacts Felicia and asks for help. She tells him he needs to restart the electrical system in the basement so the suppression devices can work again. Jim, who holds a grudge against Brody, notices him heading down and decides to follow. As soon as Brody enters the basement, his connection with Felicia starts cutting out, making it hard for him to know which switch to use to restart the system. Things get worse when Jim arrives and starts looking for him. When he hears someone coming, Brody quickly hides and tries to sneak away, but Jim catches him. With no other choice, Brody tries to fight back but can't touch him. Jim overpowers him and slams him into the wall. Coincidentally, the switch Brody needs is on the same wall. He He recognizes it from before when his team used it to restart the system. Gathering all his strength, Brody manages to free himself, then breaks a nearby pipe and sprays gas right into Jim's face. Meanwhile, in the Loop's cell, Warden Devlin doesn't seem too worried about the chaos in the prison because it's his last day at work, and the only thing on his mind is the money he'll get from the deal with the Loop. But then, the Loop reveals a shocking truth. He was the one who disabled all the suppression devices by hacking the police security system using just the Wi-Fi password. The only good thing for Devlin is that the Loop transferred all his fortune to the Loop's bank account. What he doesn't realize is that the Loop still has one last trick. Devlin looks at the Loop and suddenly feels something strange happening in his mind. Without thinking, he punches the Loop. After a while, the power comes back, and all the suppression devices reactivate. The inmates lose their powers, and the riot ends. The guards rush to the Loop's cell and open the door. Devlin immediately tells them to transfer the Loop to high-security solitary. Outside, Felicia is waiting. And the surprise is that Devlin announces she will be the new warden. This news makes Felicia very happy. At the same time, Payback is seen sitting atop a pile of dead inmates, victims he killed himself during the riot. A few days later, Diego visits Isabel in the clinic and tells her he's being transferred. A different prison, a prison based on empathy, would be more useful for the government. Now they've started to classify prisoners according to their strength, and Diego is no longer suitable here at all. At the same time, Felicia settles into her new role as warden. She removes Devlin's nameplate from the office door and throws his old chess piece in the trash. Literally, the prison is now under her control. At the same time, Brody decides to resign and hands his captain's rank to Morales. In the final scene, Devlin arrives at the prison to pick up Darius, who has just been released. But here's a twist. This Devlin isn't the real Devlin. It turns out that Daylop transferred his consciousness into Devlin's body. The events of our movie today come to an end. Stay tuned for new videos and summaries. Goodbye.